In this video, I'm going to explain why you don't need a big team to run a multi-million pound business, the systems that quietly do most of the work behind the scenes in my contractor B&B business, and how removing complexity is what makes the model sustainable. So, first thing, let's just quickly dive into where I was and ultimately where I've ended up. So, flashback 450 units at its peak in 2022, 105 staff split between an office in Dubai and an office in the UK. Um, I had two phones. I was on the hustle for probably 18 hours a day. It was just chaotic. There was like all sorts going on constantly. If you've been Airbnb hosting, you will understand, the problems that you've got now, like times it by 450 units in two different locations worldwide. And I'm pretty sure you can understand the chaos. All right. So what I did before I burnt out, I knew something had to change, and I thought I had good systems in place, but it wasn't really until I decided to change the guest type that the systems got easier, and I could then reduce the chaos, reduce the costs, and build the model that I've built today, and obviously teach you guys how to try and replicate the same, because I really don't want you to all burn out. This is a great business model. There's plenty of profit to be made from it when you do it correctly. But at the same time, it's meant to be kind of passive, semi passive, and it's meant to be enjoyable. And Airbnb tourist hosting is not, it's far from it. So by switching from tourists to contractors, that allowed me to um, really scale everything down, because contractors stay for longer. They check in, and then after the first few days of figuring out the property, they're not really pestering you. Once that property is booked for months, it comes like offline on your Airbnbs, your booking.com. So therefore the inquiries that you would normally get about, has this property got this, is it close to this, blah blah blah, that daily messaging that you have to deal with to try and win a booking, that kind of all dies down. We're only cleaning the property every couple of weeks. So we're not having every 2, 3 days to be speaking to cleaners in WhatsApp groups, and then ultimately dealing with the fucking shit that comes out of that, with the, guests that have trashed the property, the maintenance that needs doing, the cleaner that hasn't turned up, all this sort of stuff that I'm sure if you've done any form of hosting so far and the tourism game, you will fully understand what I'm talking about. If you haven't, this is unfortunately what the reality is. And I would advise you that you don't even touch that model and you just go straight down the contractor B&B route. Now, in terms of the costs, I used to have like all these fancy softwares just to try and keep the staff organized, keep the cleaners organized, be able to file our claims with Airbnb because we've got all the, the photos, be able to, dynamically price, be able to, there's all these different, the guest books that we had, these fancy apps so the guests could, get some vouchers for the local city, all this sort of stuff. And it was just, it was all great in principle, but it was all cost. Every software had a per property price. So the more you scaled, the more you were paying. I think at one point my software bills were like 30, 40K a month. Honestly, it was ridiculous. And now I don't need any of that. Like I literally just have a channel manager. I've got two virtual assistants. We use Google Chat to be able to communicate as a company between the seven of us. And that is, that used to be popping off constantly. Now it's like if I hear from my staff like once or twice a week, that is like more than enough. Before it was like 300 times a day in every single channel that I was included in. Um, we have a VoIP phone system so that our VAs can dial in, and they work obviously offshore, so they can dial in and look like where they're from the UK with the UK number, that we can take UK based phone calls through the VoIP system. And then we use WhatsApp web as well between the team to be able to speak to the guests. And that flow has just, and what you'll realize, apart from the VoIP, obviously Google Chat is linked to our inbox anyway with our emails, but it's it costs nothing per user per month. WhatsApp web is free, so there's really only the channel manager and the VoIP system. But again, the VoIP system is not that expensive that I am paying for. My software costs now are like minimal to run the exact same operation, but it has been because of the guest type. Like I cannot stress it enough. The guest type contractors reduce the stress and the chaos, just pure the fact that they stay for longer. All right. The tourism model is needy guests They are wanting an Instagrammable stay. They want to only stay for 2 to 3 days. There's no repeat booking. So you constantly having to explain things to new people, and it just adds to all of the chaos. All right. So, like, if you are serious about building an Airbnb business, I would 100% just go straight into the contractor B&B, whether you want to rent contractor B&B or whether you want to buy contractor B&B. Both options are very viable and very profitable. Um, Hit the link in the description if you haven't already joined my contractor B&B community. You can get started for a minimal amount, and it gives you all of the information to be able to put this together step by step in the right way, avoid all of the mistakes that most hosts make, and hopefully kickstart your journey in a very, very profitable way.